is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today we are back with another Q&A, this one being the Q&A for September 2021. Now, as always, if you guys do want to ask some questions for the next Q&A, then there is a Discord link down in the description. That's generally where I get the questions from, so be sure to join that. We've got a great little community there, and every month I do open up a channel called the Battlefield Q&A, and then you guys can ask some questions in there. Now, on top of that, I actually do the channel member questions first, and so if you do want to guarantee an answer, then you can become a channel member, and that will give you guys guaranteed answers to your questions in the Q&As, as well as a bunch of other rewards as well. If you guys end up enjoying the video, then be sure to leave a like down below, and if you are new, then consider subscribing to the channel with those notifications on. But with that out of the way, let's get stuck into the questions. Now, the first question we have here is from Alice, and he is of course a channel member, so thank you very much, Alice, for the support. And this is a non-Battlefield related question here, and he says, what is the most dangerous animal you've encountered? Now, this is a bit of a tough one to answer because there's one that I can think of that is like that I can remember really well, but then there's also one that I actually don't know what the whole story was, and it's kind of a long story, so I'll try and explain that one as quickly as I can. The easy answer is brown snakes and stuff like that in Australia. They're all over the place, and I think they're either the first or second most dangerous snake in the world. I've encountered like 15 or 20 in my life. I live out in the bush, so there's literally just snakes all over the place. I haven't seen that many for a few years, to be honest, but I did see one last year, and I think I killed my first brown snake at the age of like maybe 11 or 12 or something like that. So they're really dangerous, but snakes, I think people get really scared of snakes, but at the end of the day, they're actually petrified of you. So unless you go and like just be an idiot right next to it, you're very unlikely to be bitten by one. So technically speaking, that's probably the most dangerous animal that I've encountered. There's not really that many like big animals here. Most of it's just like spiders and stuff like that. But the long story that I was talking about was that one day me and a bunch of mates were at the beach, and a few of us went like really far out in the ocean, and we would have been at least like 500 meters away from the beach. Like we were way out in the water, and so it was obviously too deep that we couldn't touch the ground or anything. And I actually was sort of swimming along, and I saw this huge dark thing in the water. Now the water was like really sandy because there was like a riptide at the time, so it wasn't like, you know, the typical blue water in the beach. It was like all mixed up with sand, so the water was really murky. But I saw this huge like dark thing in the water. Obviously, being in the beach, seeing something in the water, you just freak out. So I freaked out, and I actually sort of like dived backwards, I guess you would say, and I kicked my feet, obviously trying to swim back to the shore. And as I kicked, I actually touched whatever the fuck that thing was, and like I said, we were too far out that it wasn't like a rock or something, so I don't know actually what it was. It literally could have been a shark, I have no idea, but I feel like if it was a shark, I would have been bitten. So I have no idea what it was. The other boys saw it too. There was 3 of us all together, and the rest of us, like the rest of the group, were all on the beach, and they saw us just bolting in like we were swimming in like mad. And yeah, we were absolutely petrified. I did not go back in the water for that whole week when we were at the beach, and so that's kind of a tough one because I don't know what it was. It literally could have just been like a really big piece of seaweed, for example, that was like, when I touched it, it felt hard, but maybe it was just seaweed, I don't know. But I honestly, at the time, my first thought was that it was a shark, and I absolutely shat myself and just swam back to the beach. So the snake is probably the easy answer, but that at least is that's probably the most terrifying moment of my entire life, I think. Now, the next question we have is from Masters, and he says, where does the Battlefield series go next after 2042, considering they have covered most eras? That is a really good question, and to be honest, I haven't actually thought about it too much, just because, you know, this game's obviously not even out yet, so it's still a few years away until we get the next one. But it is a good question because I don't think that they would go back to World War II straight away, and probably not World War I as well, because I don't really think they can do a World War I game again. They've kind of done, you know, that game had everything it needed to. Obviously with World War II, they could go back and do like a lot of the sort of European front stuff, this, you know, D-Day and stuff like that. They could do a lot more in a World War II game, so maybe they will go back and do another World War II game. But I think because of, you know, the last one being World War II, I don't think they would do Battlefield 5, then 2042, and then go back to World War II. So I'm not really too sure. Other than that, I feel like, you know, they can't really do modern again because this is only just in the future, so another modern one would maybe feel a bit weird. But then again, we got Battlefield 3 and 4 in a row, which are both essentially the same time frame. So it's a pretty tricky one to answer. There's always the possibility that they go into the future, which personally I'd not be all that excited for, but there is every chance that we get like Battlefield 2142, which is already a game, but they could sort of remaster that or something. So yeah, it's a kind of hard question to answer as of right now, but I guess if I had to guess what it would be, I guess it would probably just be another modern one, or yeah, maybe even World War II again, depending on how long it is until we get that new game. The next question is from Alpha Dog Gaming, and he says, what are some tips for people that are new to the Battlefield games and is getting Battlefield 2042 like myself? That's another good question, and it is a kind of hard one to answer again because it's a rather broad thing. You know, there's a lot of tips to be given, but I think the main thing is really just like getting used to the actual gameplay and the way that the game plays. They all obviously have differences and they're very different games between each one, so no doubt Battlefield 5 will be very different to Battlefield 2042, but they do all sort of have that same type of playstyle. They're a little bit slower than a game like Call of Duty, for example, so they do sort of all have, you know, a similar playstyle to them. So I guess the best tip really is just probably getting used to any Battlefield game in the past. If you haven't really played that many before, then it might be good to get into Battlefield 5 or Battlefield 1 or even Battlefield 4 and just kind of like get used to how the game plays, because obviously it will be very different, but the general, you know, the way that the game flows will be fairly similar. They're very slow compared to most other shooters out there, and it's a lot more about like getting in the right positions and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a kind of a boring answer in a way, but I'd recommend just, yeah, getting used to how Battlefield as a franchise plays, even just going and playing like 3 or 4 of the older games, and yeah, you'll get a general feel for the game, and then hopefully that will help you guys out with 2042. The next question we have is from my man Alvin, and he says, best game to introduce someone to Battlefield. Now that's another very tough question. All of these have actually been, I've had to sort of sit here and think about them before I answer them. But this one, you could kind of look at it two ways. You could look at Battlefield 4 as, for me personally anyway, being the most Battlefield game, if that makes sense. It's the most, like, it's the best representation of Battlefield is probably the best way I'd put it. I think the modern setting lends itself really well to Battlefield, and that game just feels that when I think of Battlefield, I think of Battlefield 4. So that could be one answer for, you know, introducing them to what most people probably think of when they think of Battlefield. But then at the same time, if you're trying to introduce someone to Battlefield in preparation for 2042, then Battlefield 5 might actually be the best answer, because even though the game itself might not be very similar, and obviously the era is very different and there's no like helicopters and stuff like that, I think the gameplay will probably be a lot more similar to that than it will be to Battlefield 4 in terms of like the movement and the gunplay and stuff. So if you're trying to introduce someone to Battlefield in sort of preparation, I guess Battlefield 5 might be the best, so that they can kind of get the feel for the game a little bit better. Or if you're trying to introduce them to Battlefield and just sort of like see if they like it before 2042 comes out, then I think Battlefield 4 is probably one of the best examples of what a top tier Battlefield game should be. So kind of two answers to that one, but it just depends on the way you look at it really. The next question comes from Cute Koala Chad, and he says, do you think the game will live up to the hype, especially Portal? It's kind of hard to tell early, because obviously the game could just be a bust. Like, we just don't know. I haven't played it. I don't know if the gameplay is good or anything like that, so it's always impossible to tell. But I think like everything that they've put in place, I'll say that looks like everything looks great. There's really nothing that I've seen that I'm a bit worried about. The only disappointment I've had so far is the fact that there's no cross-gen. That's literally the single thing that I've been like a little bit frustrated by. But everything else, like the fact that there's sort of the core Battlefield experience, then there's Portal like you mentioned, and then whatever Hazard Zone is going to end up being, it feels like there's sort of something for everyone. And I think the setting is really good for the game. I think the fact that we get Portal with just a ton of different content, and we've got some World War II stuff and stuff like that, it just feels like there's something in this game for everyone. And personally with Portal, I think that even if the game sucks, like I don't think Portal can really suck unless it's just like completely bugged out or something. If you can play Portal and it's not a mess, I think that it will just be a ton of fun, because you can make whatever modes you want and it doesn't really need the game to be good, if that makes sense. The game could be absolute garbage, but like I know when I do a stream and I set up some stupid game mode that is just a heap of fun, like we're still going to enjoy that. So I think the game will live up to the hype. I think everything's set up in a way that makes sense for the game, but like I said, it's kind of early to tell, so I might end up eating my words on that one, but yeah, I do think it will live up to the hype personally. Now, last but definitely not least, we have my man Nick, who says, do you think Battlefield 2042 should be a $60 game even if it doesn't include a campaign? This one is a very sort of controversial topic in the community that I've seen, especially like around the reveal of the game, and I do have a pretty set opinion on this, in that I do think it's actually better for the game that it doesn't have a campaign. I think by the time this goes up, I will have just uploaded a video probably last week about it, so if you guys want to get like my full thoughts on that, then there is a video on the channel already about that. But just to kind of summarize it, I think not having a campaign just means that they can spend so much more time on the multiplayer, which, let's be honest, that's why 99% of people buy the game. They don't buy the game for the campaign. Obviously, there are some people out there who do, and for those guys that obviously sucks, but the majority of people who buy it are buying it for multiplayer, even if they play the campaign. Like, I don't care if there's no campaign, but even if there is one, I generally play it, so it's not like I'm against the campaign, but the reason I buy the game is for the multiplayer aspect, and the fact that now they can put so much more effort into multiplayer without having to worry about the campaign and whether that's good and stuff like that. I just think that's a really big win for the game, and I think like I can understand why people are a little bit mad about it, because in a way it does seem like they're taking like a section out of the game and then it's still the same price, or technically even it's going to be more on next gen. So I do definitely understand where people are coming from, but I think we're going to look back at this in, you know, 5 years and probably think, wow, that was really a good decision that they didn't add that, because they can just spend, you know, those probably years worth of time and effort and resources and money and everything, they can put that into the multiplayer rather than the campaign, and I think that really is just the best decision for the game right now. Hopefully in the future they bring back the campaigns. Like I'm definitely not opposed to them, but I think for this game, like after Battlefield 5 was a bit of a fail, I think this game just really needs to be a success for the franchise in general, and I think they've made the right decision by doing that. So I think the game is definitely still worth $60, and I mean, I can't really say that now because like I said earlier, we haven't played, so maybe the game is just going to be trash, and then at that point you can be like, yeah, okay, that wasn't worth $60, but on paper I think it's definitely still worth $60. There's going to be the regular multiplayer, there's going to be Portal, there's going to be whatever Hazard Zone is going to be, there's going to be tons of content, and the other thing is that obviously the majority of the content is going to be free. Obviously there's battle passes and stuff, but like the maps and weapons and stuff is all free as well. So personally I'm a big fan of the decision, and yeah, I definitely do think that the game is still worth $60. But that is going to do it for another Q&A, boys and girls. Like I said, if you do want to ask some questions for the next one, feel free to join the Discord. There's a link, I think it's the bottom link in the description, and when you join the Q&A channel might not be there, but I sort of open it up just before I start to record them, so keep your eyes peeled for that. And then like I said, if you guys do want to guarantee answers to your questions, because obviously I can't get through all of them, then do consider becoming a channel member, and there are, like I said, plenty of other rewards that come along with that as well. So that is going to do it for this one, guys. Like I said, if you enjoyed the video, then be sure to leave a like down below, and if you are new, then consider subscribing to the channel and turning on those notifications. Thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll see you all out there on the battlefield.